The Trump fake ceasefire with Iran now looks even more fake. You had Netanyahu ignoring Donald Trump when Trump said, I hold all of the cards. You will not strike Iran. And then Netanyahu shortly thereafter struck Iran. Iran responded by striking Israel. Skirmishes broke out all throughout the weekend. It began when Israel attacked Beirut. That was something that Iran said, if you did that, we would respond and strike Israel. They then responded and struck Israel. And then Donald Trump said, I've got this all under control. I got this all under control. He didn't have it under control. And then throughout the evening, there were more reciprocal strikes between Israel and Iran. And it just seems like everything is just completely becoming even more unglued there. We'll talk about that. Also, everything Trump touches dies, whether it's the Middle East, whether it is the World Cup, whether it is the Knicks game, whether it is the UFC, whether it's the White House, whether it's our health yet again. I mean, we're running it back right after Donald Trump completely mismanaging COVID. I mean, right now it's like whack-a-mole between Ebola outbreaks and screwworm outbreaks and measles outbreaks and hantavirus. Who would have thought that if you cut the CDC and you cut critical health funding, that this would be the outcome? Shocker right there. I mean, the Trump regime's also destroying D-Day commemorations. How do you ruin a D-Day commemoration? Well, Pete Hegseth figured out how to do that by using the beaches of Normandy as a way to attack European countries while there, destroying Albania. So we're in like the 9th day of Albanian protests right now against Trump family development. Jared Kushner and Ivanka taking over an island there and trying to turn it into some weirdo Trumpenstein island. You got that. And then over the weekend, I mean, you got to see Donald Trump give one of the most unhinged interviews ever of like any human, like not just like his term, like human being behavior, right? He was interviewed by Kristen Welker and his face alternated between shades of bright red and orange. And he just like lost it and then ran away during the interview, and he took off his mic and like threw it and like touched Kristen Welker so weirdly. And he was like talking about the elections being rigged and how fake she is. And, you know, and your elections are rigged. You need to know your elections are rigged. And I just want to emphasize that the behavior, just like as a human being, this is not normal human being behavior. And I know that like the news cycle moves beyond that relatively quickly. And like, oh, it's just Trump being Trump. Like, we can't normalize that behavior. So we've got a lot to discuss. We'll start at the top, obviously, after saying what's up to Brett and Jordy. Jordy, how you both doing today?
Doing great. It's great to be here with you, brothers. Great to be here, Midas, Mighty, and it is Game 3 of the NBA Finals. But this doesn't show you our dedication to this podcast, to the Midas Mighty, us doing the show right now, then I don't know what is. I don't know if you don't have to use the word hero exactly, but if you want, I'm just playing around. It's so great to be here, everybody. I know we got a lot to break down, a lot to discuss. This endless back and forth of strikes, and the retaliatory strike for this, a retaliatory strike for that. I'm ultimately just sick of being lied to by this government, by Trump, by all of his goons. I'm sick of the lying. I'm sick of the gaslighting. I'm sick of the constant dividing us at every single turn. Even watching what the Trump regime is doing to us here in California yet again, trying to exploit the fact that the California vote counting process is a long, methodical process to try to then spew these same sort of election fraud talking point BS and flood the zone with that crap again, because Spencer Pratt, a reality TV star villain, is not going to advance to the general election in the LA mayoral race. These people, it's just such a disgrace. There are facts and there are lies. There is no in between when it comes to this stuff. And to see the stuff that they're pumping out about this, it's just a microcosm of what they do everywhere. It's a microcosm for how they handle the war in Iran. It's a microcosm for how they handle these diseases that are raging here and across the world right now. We got a lot to discuss, a lot to get into. First, we got to check in with Jordy. Jordy, what's the latest?
Brothers, Midas Mighty, it's great to be here. Ben, I'm going to toss it to you in 1 second. I just wanted to remind everyone watching right now, please download and subscribe to the MeidasTouch Podcast anywhere you get your audio. Make sure you're listening daily. We do daily drops. We do, of course, this long form show that goes out on the feed every Tuesday morning and Friday morning. And then throughout the whole rest of the week, all the way Monday through Sunday, Ben's giving his hot takes. So make sure you're plugged in all day, every day. The MeidasTouch Podcast. Download it on audio. Subscribe to it on audio wherever you get your podcast.
I'll say this. If you're a MeidasTouch audio subscriber on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of these audio apps, you could right now in the live chat, if you're watching us live, write, I'm an audio subscriber. I would love to see that. All right, Ben, what's the latest?
Yeah, look, set aside your politics for a moment, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, neither of those parties, unaffiliated. I think what we want in leaders is some level of predictability, certainty, expertise. Where you lack knowledge, you draw on expertise, competence, right, at a very basic level, keeping your word. And with this Trump regime and with Donald Trump, just like his entire life has been built on lies and lies and lies, that's what we're seeing right now. It's just a barrage of fraud. And remember what a lot of his cases against him were about. They were about giving false numbers. Like the guy's whole life has been like a fraud, where he thought it was in his interest to exaggerate 100 million, which isn't a bad number, $100 million. He would exaggerate $2 to $5 billion, right? Where it was in his interest to say 2 to 5 billion was $26 million, because that would mean he wouldn't have to pay property taxes on a $2 to $5 billion. He would say $26 million. That was the essence of New York Attorney General Letitia James' civil case. And it was deeply problematic behavior. And we're now seeing that interposed as a template for our country. And it's that level of unpredictability, capriciousness, arbitrariness, and corruption that's making so many in the world move away from the United States as just not a reliable partner. I mean, go back to the beginning of Trump's term when he crashed the markets the first time around. And what was the thing that he was saying that he was going to do? 90 deals in 90 days. He said that he had this day called Liberation Day, and everything was going to be amazing, and tariffs were going to bring down all of the prices because all these other countries were going to pay for it, when we know tariffs are a tax on the American consumer as the importer in the United States pays it. And then they said 90 deals in 90 days. They set an arbitrary deadline for themselves, which is something you should never do in a negotiation, because when the other side knows you're working on a deadline, they can use that to their advantage. Just like when Iran sees that Donald Trump and Rubio say, the war is over, we're not fighting war anymore. Okay, well, that is signaling also to Iran that you're not going to engage back in any kind of open hostilities. And so your constant claiming you're going to blow up the Iranian civilization, they better make a deal or else, feels a lot to Iran like, okay, these people aren't serious negotiators and they're not serious about their threats, and they know they're stuck and they're trying to find a way out of the, Strait of Hormuz. And just like 90 deals, 90 days, or when Donald Trump makes up these fake deals with countries that aren't even deals, they're bringing in $2 billion, $5 billion. If you add it up, it's $20 billion, 20 trillion, whatever it is. When you add up all the billions, it comes to $20 trillion that we've now brought in. We didn't bring in $20 trillion. You're just making up fake numbers. And, here as well, he keeps talking about deals. It's right around the corner. Deal, right around the corner. I'm going to do a deal. You want to do a deal? I'll do a deal. Deal. It's like, okay, stop talking about a deal and either do it or don't do it and just shut up. Just come up with a deal, and that means you're going to have to make concessions, or don't do the deal. I don't want to see the outcome there because you've already engaged in so many war crimes. But if ultimately you claim you're going and doing another path, then you're going to have to make a decision, because staying frozen in the Strait of Hormuz while we are inching closer and inching is an understatement, as we are moving rapidly closer to what oil analysts call tank bottom. That happens every day we move closer. Since we started filling up strategic reserves, since literally the idea of a strategic reserve was created, we're about to soon have less in our strategic reserves than day one of filling up strategic reserves. At some point, when you dip down into the kind of 6 to 7 billion barrel range, and you dip down into this area, you start reaching a point where there is massive, massive supply shock that then will start to bring $100 per barrel to $200 per barrel, when you're looking at the Brent and WTI. And my question is that the moment that he's just sitting there waiting for that catastrophe to take place, mounting on top of other catastrophes? Because while he talks about this fake ceasefire and everything's going great and he's advancing the negotiations with Iran, he had the audacity, after we saw Israel strike Beirut and then Iran respond by striking Israel, Trump calls up state regime media and says, whoa, I'm not happy with what Netanyahu did there. You went after Beirut? Why would you do that? I was going to get this deal done on Monday. I was so close. We were one day away from doing this deal. And now, obviously, what Netanyahu did is going to complicate the fact that me and Iran were so close to getting the deal done. And then you had Iran retaliate by striking Israel. And then Donald Trump he calls up the Financial Times. That's a choice. And gives an interview and says, Bibi is listening to me. I hold the cards, and I've told him, do not strike Iran. And I got the word from Bibi that Benjamin Netanyahu, that he's not going to strike Iran. 2 hours later, Netanyahu strikes Iran. Iran then strikes Israel. And then Donald Trump starts posting super early in the morning, stop it. I mean, this is what we've been reduced to as the United States of America. Freaking social media posts. Israel and Iran must immediately stop shooting. Donald J. Trump. And then he posts another one just like this as well. All right, they've given me their word. We're really good this time. They both want a ceasefire more than anything right now. And so we're good. We're moving on from this. And then you have Iran issuing a statement saying, look, we're not anywhere close to doing a deal with Trump. We don't know what he means that he's saying we're close. We've been very clear about our non-negotiables since March. And the reality is that they have. If you've been watching our coverage, I've been saying Iran has been remarkably consistent with what they've said were their terms, and they haven't budged from them. On the outer perimeter, perhaps the amount of money they want for reparations is different. The way they want to control the Strait of Hormuz may be subject to negotiations, but the underlying framework has not moved, frankly, an iota since, mid-March, when we started hearing Trump talking about fake deals. And ultimately, as you moved, into April or so, when Trump announced ceasefires happened, we've done it, and Trump reposted Foreign Minister Araghchi's social media post, he adopted those same points. And to this day, Iran has not budged from those points that they want to control the Strait of Hormuz. They're now working with Oman. They built up this Strait of Hormuz kind of port authority that controls it. They want reparations. They're articulating that as $24 billion of funds being unfrozen right now. They're not going to give up their nuclear material to be handed out to another country. They say they're okay with basically an Obama-style deal that relates to oversight, that they will be using their nuclear material for civilian purposes. They're not going to get rid of their ballistic missiles or their Shahed drones, and that security guarantees don't just apply to them, but apply to Lebanon. It applies to the Houthis in Yemen, and it applies to Iran. They haven't budged from that. And so if Donald Trump wants to do a deal with them, you're going to have to find a way to unfreeze the funds. And you're going to have to do a security guarantee in Lebanon. And that means you're going to have to lean on Netanyahu and say, hey, you got to get out of Lebanon. And, one of the issues is, well, then how do you deal with the Hezbollah threat to Israel? And ultimately, my question is, who's in whose country right now? When that ceasefire was announced, it was very clear that Lebanon was a major part of it. And at that point, Israel had not made a major excursion into Lebanon more. Let's be very clear, they were bombing Beirut. They were committing all types of war crimes in Beirut. But as with respect to where their troops were relative to the Litani River and other areas, Israel escalated a ground offensive after the ceasefire was entered into back in April and continued to advance. And we were starting to report, look, they're going to now go after Tyre or Sur, one of these cities over here. And now they're going to go after Daya, one of the cities right near, or the towns right near Beirut. I said, that's just going to propel everybody back into war. And Iran said, look, if they go and they attack these areas and say, well, they say they're going after Hezbollah, but you're blowing up buildings and killing innocent people as well. You're killing medics, you're killing, young children, and so you claim last week that there was a ceasefire that was taking place, and there wasn't one. How many people in Gaza were killed over this past weekend? Significant amounts of kids and women and people were killed in Gaza. How many people in Lebanon were killed, and medics and so many people who were killed? And it's just like, enough. All of this is predictable. And Donald Trump's out there today saying, don't worry, we're so close to a deal. We're so close that we're not close to a deal. We're not, because you're not putting in the work. You're not actually doing the stuff that Obama did by bringing together experts and putting the pieces together. You're just saying deal. This is not like the show Apprentice. This is real life stuff. And that has massive consequences on the people, brothers.
But Ben, did Barack Obama do a tweet like this? Did he make a post like the post you read about Trump, that Israel and Iran must immediately stop shooting and sign his name on it? Because that right there, that is the mark of an effective negotiator. This all just looks so weak. The fact that he is trying to actually play this out on his Truth Social website, which loses millions and millions and millions of dollars per year, that he thinks this is how you negotiate in these situations. It's just insane. And the fact that so many people latch on to the ceasefire framing as all sides keep bombing each other is also insane. The whole Gaza ceasefire, that whole concept is a lie. The ceasefire that they say exists between Israel and Lebanon or the United States and Iran, it's all a lie. And we're seeing that every day as all of these different entities attack each other, bomb each other, kill each other. And the thing is, it's also this kind of never-ending cycle, because every side wants to get the last word in. And so you could see how this has kind of gone on in some way for thousands and thousands of years, because you have Israel attacking Iran for retaliation for Iran's attacks. And that was after Iran attacked Israel for Israel's attacks on Lebanon, which was a retaliation for Hezbollah's attacks on Israel. And you could just keep pulling at that thread forever, and it will never, ever end. But that's the situation that we're dealing with. That's why this conflict keeps going on. And I hope Donald Trump did actually speak back to Netanyahu about this, because let's face it, Netanyahu is the biggest block to peace that there is right now in the region. He refuses to stop. He knows that if he continues to remain active in this war posture, that Iran will never make a deal with the United States. I think he does not want the United States to make a deal with Iran, because he has other ambitions, other things that he wants to do, whether in Lebanon or Iran. And there are a lot of hardliners, especially around Netanyahu, more hardline than him, like Ben-Gvir, who pushed essentially for like a complete extermination of people in Lebanon and of people in Iran. And so you have all of these kind of conflicting forces. And I do hope, and if Donald Trump did actually tell Netanyahu to stop and quit it, then I will say good on Donald Trump for actually doing that. The thing is, Netanyahu knows that Donald Trump is weak and that Donald Trump is not actually going to do anything. So Netanyahu is going to move ahead anyway. He is going to continue to cause these issues. Iran has made it very clear from the start that this ceasefire includes Lebanon. They've said that from day one, and even U.S. officials and independent mediators said that from day one. It is only after that was publicized and Netanyahu got pissed off about it that all of a sudden you saw the U.S. backtracking and saying, oh, wait, Lebanon's not part of this whole thing. But Iran has said repeatedly that they are going to take an attack on Lebanon as an attack on them. And so Israel knew exactly what they were doing when they did those attacks over the weekend. They knew exactly what the fallout is going to be. So now we're in this endless limbo that we have seen constantly during not only this Trump administration, but the last Trump administration, this BS loop of whether it's 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, we're going to get 90 deals in 90 days. You could go back to the first Trump administration when he said with COVID, we're going to do 15 days to stop the spread. Whatever happened to COVID? We ever hear about it after those 15 days? I think he just clamped down on it after those 15 days and everybody was fine and everybody went on with their lives. No, he lies. He makes up these fake time frames. He gets the media and he gets people to go along with it. And then the time comes and nothing happens and he just pretends like it never happened at all. I don't think Trump ever thought, honestly, that we would still be in this war June 8th, 2026, when he went in. I think that he thought that he was going to be able to get in there, leave, get out, boom, done, clean. But now he's been trapped in something of his own making, something because he was completely misguided by this whole thing, whether he didn't realize that they were going to control the strait, whether they didn't realize how much they would actually fight back, whether he wasn't listening to the intelligence agencies who were telling him that they had a more hardline faction who was ready to take over if they got rid of the current leadership. And we're seeing even internally within the Trump regime right now, so much discord, the CIA not sharing information with the director of national intelligence. You're seeing the fracturing right now of the intelligence community in the United States where nobody trusts each other. And that's why I've been saying, as Donald Trump and these Republicans and all these people try to say, look, Iran is so divided into these factions and they have the hardliners and they have this group and they have that group and none of them can agree on anything. That might be true, but that's also happening here in the United States. Even within Donald Trump's own administration here, there are a lot of different factions, a lot of different groups. And if Donald Trump actually wants to move forward and secure a deal, he's going to have to piss some of them off. So that might mean pissing off the people like the Fox host crew, like the Mike Levins, or, he might have to piss off Lindsey Graham, right, and not be a warmonger. He might have to piss off Bibi Netanyahu. He might have to piss off a lot of these Twitter grifters who get mad at any sign that there's a possible deal out there, these really kind of hardline right-wing MAGA people, because the only way forward, like Ben said, is to actually come to the table on the terms that were already agreed upon and work out the details. And yes, you're going to get some angry tweets about it, or there might be some people on Fox News who get mad about it. You can't let that affect your thinking. If you ever actually want to reach a deal that's good for the world, the American people, and not just good for your own kind of vanity project, which seems to be all that he cares about.
I'll toss it to you, Jordy Brett, and it's because we didn't win the war. If we won the war, you would be negotiating a surrender and a submission. But that's not what this is. You're negotiating basically, based on what went down, a partial surrender by the United States, because that's actually what happened in the war. Let's be clear. It's not a full surrender, right? The United States did damage and also engaged in a lot of war crimes. And the blockade, I don't want to oversimplify this. The blockade does hurt Iran, and America does have leverage points. So it's not a full surrender, but it's a partial surrender by the U.S. because that's what actually took place in the war. So to pretend in a fictitious scenario that you won and their navy's in the bottom of the sea and they don't have missiles, that's not the dynamic. Iran's negotiating from the perspective that they've won, and Donald Trump's behaving delusionally. Sorry, Jordy. No, you're fine. Look, Netanyahu right now, he is eating Donald Trump's lunch. There's no way he's playing Trump like a fiddle, man. But to borrow a phrase that Trump likes to use, you know who doesn't have the cards? Donald Trump doesn't have the cards.
Oil prices skyrocketing, troops dying overseas. Affordability in this country is just like at an all-time low right now. It's crazy to me when we could take a step back and look at someone like a Donald Trump who is just spiraling. Like literally the worst person to be in charge of this moment is in charge right now. Donald Trump has no idea how to get us out of this. Brett, I think you're exactly right. I think he bit off way more than he could chew, and he thought that we were going to be in and out just like that. Easy peasy. Let's boost the stock market. Everyone's going to love this. And now, no, we're just perpetually stuck here because the strait's closed and it doesn't seem like it's going to open anytime soon. And Donald Trump doesn't actually know how to negotiate, give a little, take a little, try and figure out, hey, where could we mutually meet here? No, all of that's gone out the window because Donald Trump is the world's worst businessman. And I don't like to put it in that perspective because, I don't want to call it business, but to a certain degree, what the president has to do is treat these things as if it's business, as is, hey, how can each side walk away feeling like they both won something and lost something out of this for the better of all of our people? Right? But that's not where Donald Trump sits at these moments. He's just a me guy. He's a me guy. I mean, you want to know how much of a me guy he is? New York City right now, shutting down blocks and avenues in New York City around MSG, just canceling all of the watch parties where all the fans get to go out and hang out. And it's looking like a damn, I don't even know what you could call that. It looks like what you see at like airports these days with the whole TSA. It looks like a war zone. Honestly, it looks like a war zone what they have at MSG right now, all to appease one person's ego. And that's Donald Trump because he wanted to go see the game. Knicks fans be damned, citizens be damned, but it's just such a, there's such a larger microcosm right here of Donald Trump and the way he treats people, right? He doesn't care about the people in New York City. He doesn't care about Americans. He doesn't actually give a damn so long as he gets to do whatever the heck he wants to do at the end of the day. That's his North Star. And I think as we continue to go into this war, once again, remember, they said we won this back in February. We're still talking about it because there's no end in sight. I just think and feel like in my heart of hearts, it's going to continue to get worse. There is no out here. I can't fathom how this actually ends with a madman like Donald Trump supposed to be the head of the negotiating table right now.
Well, you said February, although that started late February into March, but you're right, though, in the sense of I went back and I was looking at clips from early January, and Donald Trump in these speeches he gives right when the new year begins, he goes, "We've got a beautiful armada. It's going right by Iran. They're going to make a deal." He started saying that probably even before that, but he started talking that they were going to make a deal in January, and then here's the thing.
Wait, remember when he made up? I just remember that. Remember when Donald Trump made up that Iran gave him a gift? Like that was something that he ran with for like 48 hours. Iran gave me a gift. And everyone was like, what is the guy talking about?
They gave me a beautiful gift. But then here's the thing. Then the Oman foreign minister actually did a deal and worked out a deal that was stronger than Obama's JCPOA. And the thing is, it's never enough for the guy. When he then gets the thing out of just the insanity, then he still can't take it. It's not enough. And then he destroys it all. And so there actually could have been a great deal, better than JCPOA, that was negotiated. And then what happened? That was the night that Netanyahu said, late February, we're going in. We're going in. Are you coming with us? Are you coming? And Trump's like, yeah, I guess we got to come in with you. And how do we know that? Rubio said we had to go in because we knew Israel was going to strike and then Iran was going to retaliate. And so we had to go in preemptively, defensively, offensively. And then just come up with all these ridiculous stuff. What are you talking about? There could have been a deal. There could have been a deal. And now anything that takes place will be much worse than the deal that was offered in February, and of course, worse than the Obama deal. All right, let's take our first quick break of the show. A quick reminder, make sure you subscribe to the MeidasTouch audio. Wherever you get your audio, subscribe to Meidas Audio, please, and help us grow on audio as well. So search MeidasTouch, leave a 5-star review there, and tell us in the chat if you're not an audio subscriber, and after this, you will subscribe on audio.
It's free. It's free, by the way. Just go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify. There are a million podcast apps out there that you could use. I could go through a list for the next hour, but you all know the podcast app. Just search MeidasTouch Podcast, add the show, leave a 5-star review if you can.
Let's take our first quick break.
If a genie gave me 3 wishes, I would use all my wishes to make sure that my cat could live forever. But since genies don't exist, at least as far as I know, I feed my cat Smalls. Smalls is fresh, human-grade cat food that does so much more than just feed your cat. It helps them live a full, healthy life. Most cat food out there, it's made with meat byproducts, cheap fillers, and artificial ingredients. Basically stuff that isn't great for your cat. Big Pet Food does this because it's cheaper to make. But what they save on cost, your cat pays for with their health. Smalls is different. Their fresh recipes are made with at least 80% animal protein, and they're gently cooked to retain all their nutrients and flavor. They never add fillers or artificial ingredients, and their food is so healthy that 88% of cat parents say that after feeding their cats Smalls, their cats have better digestion, a softer and shinier coat, and more energy to play, because it's actually good for cats. I can attest to this. Smalls is amazing. Your cat's health and longevity starts with what they eat. Try Smalls and get 60% off your cat's first order, plus free shipping and free treats for life when you go to smalls.com/Meidas. One last time, that's 60% off your first order, plus free shipping and free treats for life when you head to smalls.com/Meidas. Ever wake up sweaty, freezing, or just uncomfortable? The temperature in your bedroom can make or break your sleep. That's why I switched to Miracle Made sheets. They're inspired by NASA technology and use silver-infused temperature-regulating fabric to help you sleep perfectly all night long. Here's the thing, thanks to their antibacterial silver technology, Miracle Made sheets stay cleaner and fresher up to 3 times longer than regular sheets. That means fewer odors, fewer wash cycles, and way less laundry. All that hidden bacteria in regular sheets, it can clog your pores and cause breakouts. Miracle Made's antibacterial design helps you sleep cleaner and clearer night after night. And they feel just as good, if not better, than sheets you'd find at a 5-star hotel, but without that steep price tag. Smooth, breathable, and ridiculously comfortable. Miracle Made sheets are crafted with NASA-inspired silver-infused fabric that helps regulate your body temperature. Hot sleeper, cold sleeper, it doesn't matter. These sheets help keep you in the comfort zone all night long. Upgrade your sleep or give the gift of better rest. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas to try Miracle Made sheets today. You'll save over 40%, and when you use promo code Meidas, you'll get an extra 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel set. They make an amazing gift, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no risk. That's trymiracle.com/Meidas, code Meidas at checkout. Thanks to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode. Shout out to our sponsors, links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Benji, before I toss it back to you, Trump has a history here of torpedoing deals. Do you remember back in 2024 when the Republican, James Lankford from Oklahoma, he was working on a bipartisan agreement for, it was a Senate border deal, what they were working on. And Trump, because it didn't benefit him in that time period, essentially told all the Republicans to nuke it unless they got everything that they wanted in that bill, whatever the hell that meant. What it basically meant was Trump wanted to continue to run on it and campaign off of it. So he wanted them to nuke it completely. And so Donald Trump here, he has a hit. There are plenty more examples of this type of behavior. But once again, it just goes to show that he actually doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care about anything or anyone, and he only cares about one person. And that's, hey, how can this help and benefit me, Donald Trump? It's so pathetic to me, Ben.
And he's way too emotional for this job. He can't handle it. And if there's any knock on some of the videos I do, I'll acknowledge the criticism often is, Ben, you're saying he's having a psychotic meltdown in the morning, or you're saying he looks like he's panicking, and you're a little over the top with those. And I'm like, I really don't think so. I mean, when I see his face in this bright orange and bright red, and I'm observing a human being behavior that I would expect to see at like I'm not trying to be rude or inconsiderate when I say this, but like at like a mental hospital, I don't know this behavior. This is not how I'm used to grown-ups behaving, and success is measured in lots of different ways. So I'm not equating success with money or financial success, because sometimes that's some of the least successful people in private. But when I've interacted with all different people in my career when I was a litigator and a lawyer, including lots of billionaires and people who own sports teams. And, I was interacting with a lot of people, who did that type of stuff. And then I've interacted with people who run nonprofits, and I've interacted with clients who were in Bakersfield and Fresno who were going through tough times, and I would represent them no matter what their political parties. That behavior by him is not normal human behavior. It's just, it needs to be called out. And it kind of, if you think about it though, the kind of permutations that he kind of goes through. I mean, it quite literally is a bit like a little baby, and no offense to little babies or children. I mean, like little bratty kids or scared kids. I mean, I think about, a 19-month-old or a 25-month-old, because I have a little girl, and we go to the park and I see, the big slides or the tall diving boards, right? And maybe, first they'll do the small slide, and then they'll do maybe the medium slide or the small diving board and the medium diving board. And then they walk up to the high dive or to the big slide, in the park. And then what happens? They get frozen sometimes, and then they want to do it, but then they don't want to do it. And then they look around and they don't know what to do. And so the response sometimes is to cry. Ah! It's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go down the slide? Or do you want to go this way? And when I see Trump's face right there, that's like what I see. I see someone frozen who's like a little baby who's like, and again, that's not how adults behave. That's not how children, behave as they develop, and you tell them, look, that's not how that's not what you're supposed to do. And I mean, I think about his parents sending him to that military boarding school, which Trump tries to pretend he was in the military when he went to this boarding school. I think about what a disastrous kid he must have been also. It's like, dude, just send this guy away. And I don't want to gloss over, that appearance that he had when he lashed out at Kristen Welker, and it was over him whining about the 2020 election. It's like, dude, regardless, you're unfortunately the president in 2026. You're the president of the United States right now with awesome and august responsibility. That's who you are right now. You should be, although he's not obviously, a role model. You should know that all of your behavior is being looked at by foreign leaders and adversaries and allies, if we have any, but also people here in the United States, and children are looking at that. And, I think about Obama's behavior. I think about Biden's behavior. Heck, I think about George W. Bush's behavior. And then I look at this and I'm like, again, this is not coming from a political angle. It's coming from a human angle and humanity. And I'm like, dude, what the hell is this? Here, just watch this quickly.
Do you think it's appropriate that they have an election and 5 days later they're nowhere close to picking a winner?
State and local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
They're urging the votes to be counted quickly. That's how they vote in California.
They're crooked, just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
well,
continue.
You play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid.
Let's
you play
continue.
right into their hands with this rap. You know that these elections are rigged. Your network knows that they're rigged. You know that I won an election in a landslide, and I got 94% bad press.
But, Mr. President,
you know why I got that? Because you have no
evidence.
credibility.
But you've never presented evidence that it was rigged. Let's keep talking about. I want to talk about Todd.
You have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk
your
about
elections in this country. We're like a third world country.
But, sir,
your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But, Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know.
I've sat in the rain with you for an hour,
Wisconsin.
on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press because you know what?
Mr.
A country can never be great with a dishonest press.
Listen, we traveled all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
what a weird, dangerous, demented way of just behaving. It's weird also how he touched her. Then he said, like, your elections, as though he's like a foreigner, like, your elections are.
It's like Vladimir Putin telling him that and him like echoing the point, right?
Exactly what I was thinking, in my opinion, in your opinion, of course. Like, that's what it looked like, was like, are you echoing something? Your elections are like, it's like what's the Will Ferrell movie? Like where they're like, kill the prime minister. It's like
Zoolander.
He was like Zoolander. It was like all of a sudden you got a Zoolander. Like, your elections are rigged. It's like, dude, are you like literally like, did Putin put one of these microchips like in you, and you're like just just spewing these points? Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but that's like,
there's really nothing more dangerous than that sort of rhetoric, and it really is. Like, if the media could try to be like, why are we so divided? Why doesn't anybody have trust in our institutions? Why doesn't anybody have trust in our elections? Oh my God, it must be both sides must be contributing to this phenomenon. Just look at Donald Trump there, right? That right there is the most toxic kind of rhetoric that you could possibly say in a democracy, especially the fact that it's being amplified by the president of the United States. And if you're willing to say this about Los frickin' Angeles, you're going to say it's rigged because Republican didn't advance in the mayoral race, then you could say it about anywhere, right? And this, of course, is to set the stage as well for the 2026 elections and the 2028 elections. Now, I would say one of the interesting things about all of this is that there were all these social media lies that were spread. And of course, this is a coordinated oligarch kind of disinformation campaign. And Elon Musk is a part of this with his X app, which promotes this false information like crazy. And so there was a viral tweet that went all over the place where somebody said, wow, a batch of votes dropped for the Los Angeles election, and 0 votes were counted for Spencer Pratt. 0? Really? That doesn't sound suspicious to you? Yeah, I mean, it would, except for the fact that it wasn't true. It was a complete lie. But that didn't stop it from getting something like 200,000 likes, millions and millions of views. A lot of people then think, oh my God, this is what happened. There must be fraud in this place, rather than thinking, oh, this person who is grifting online for likes and Twitter money or whatever the hell they're doing is lying to me. And instead of getting mad at the people who are lying to you, the people like Donald Trump, the people like the folks on Twitter who just constantly spew disinformation, they then get mad at the people telling them the truth. No, actually, there were thousands of Spencer Pratt votes in that batch. Here's the data from the website. You could see it for yourself right here. That tweet was a lie, but they don't accept it. They don't say, oh, thanks for informing me. They say, F you, you're lying, you're fake news, and they repeat the words of their dear leader, Donald Trump. That's what Donald Trump has injected into our politics, into our country, and that is why it is so toxic. I mean, at Los Angeles, something like 17 or 18%, I forget, people who identify as Republicans. It's incredibly hard, honestly, for a Republican candidate when there are multiple Democrats to advance. And, I think everyone for this, I think, was really in kind of their own information silos, right? I think even the media bought into the Spencer Pratt hype. I think a lot of wealthy people bought into the Spencer Pratt hype. Some celebrities bought into the Spencer Pratt hype, because when you looked on Twitter, which was pushing a specific narrative, you saw a lot of Spencer Pratt this, Spencer Pratt that. Oh, look, he has an AI video. 99.9% of those people don't live in LA. I'm sure a lot of them are bots. And so it doesn't even matter what they say. You have no idea what's going on in the city. You have no idea the makeup of the city. It's not a Spencer Pratt city, and the fact that you could use this LA mayoral race and for Trump to try to use it as a microcosm that, look, our elections are rigged, to me is a sign not only of just like what he's doing here in LA, but what he wants to do in the future. One of the most interesting things I was about to say before, though, is that when those vicious rumors spread about, oh, look, these corrupt elections and there were no votes for Spencer Pratt, Donald Trump sent someone from the Department of Justice, Bill Asaley, an assistant U.S. attorney, I think he is, to Los Angeles to monitor the vote counting. And so he went to the vote facilities, and, I think they want to intimidate the vote counters. I think they want to show, look, we're the federal government and we're watching you, sort of thing. But the surprising thing is that even Asaley did not go along with Donald Trump's demented lies. In fact, He wrote a tweet online saying there's been a lot of rumors spreading on this app about fake vote counts and Spencer Pratt getting 0 votes. I'm letting you know I looked into it and this is false. That's not true. We're continuing to monitor the situation for irregularities. And so I think it's interesting that you're even seeing hardline people within Donald Trump's own DOJ speaking out actually against the false rumors while Donald Trump amplifies those false rumors at the same exact time.
1000%. I want to go back to the clip, though, that interview with Welker. So I'm not saying this to be cute or hyperbolic. That was one of the most deranged interviews I think Donald Trump has ever given that we've actually, witnessed play out. I mean, just ask yourself, if you're watching this, would you let your toddler talk to you in the manner that Donald Trump was throwing that tantrum, or would you go ahead and go and put them in timeout? There's not many people, if at all any, that you would, allow to speak to you in the way that Trump was yelling at Welker. And y'all know me. I'm no like Kristen Welker fan. Woo, like not really my take there. I do, though, really appreciate a strong fourth estate, and I'm happy to see Kristen Welker there. Stand up for yourself. I'm not crooked. You've presented no evidence. I think that right there is vital. And if those two statements by her set him off so badly, you just have to ask yourself why. And the only reason that I could come to is that he hates this country, and he only wants you to believe one thing: that he won the 2020 election. That's what he needs you. He needs you to believe that in your heart of hearts. Because if you don't believe that, then you're not MAGA. Then you're not a Republican. Then you don't love this country. In Trump's mind, that's how he sees this end game playing out here, is that he needs everyone to be convinced. Now, the thing is, I think history, so long as pro-democracy continues to win out and pro-democracy voices continue to shine lights on this, I think history will expose Donald Trump for the crackpot that he is. And we'll be teaching this in schools as 15, 20 years, so long as this country could hold strong here, as one of the darkest periods in this country, but something that we could reflect on and make sure never happens again. Because what we're witnessing on a daily basis from Donald Trump right now is someone who is cognitively, like, truly not all there. Like, you can't watch those clips and tell me that this guy is a full mental state and capacity. Now, I'm not saying this to give him an out ever, if it comes to any sort of criminality that he gets, convicted for or whatnot, or puts on trial for. But what I'm trying to say here is, like, Donald Trump is not well. However, this is also the president of the United States, who is in charge of a lot of important decisions that affect all Americans' lives. And to me, that is what is so damning and scary at a time like this one.
Well, exactly. Because if that's how he behaves when he knows he's on video in front of millions of people, how do you think he's acting behind the closed doors? How do you think he's behaving in the Situation Room, right? Remember the reporting that others were doing and we were doing here about how the military wanted him outside of the Situation Room because he was too emotional, and they couldn't have him in there during kind of critical, and they still can't during critical missions because he's a distraction. And then I look at that behavior and I say, yeah, because it's probably what we saw there times 100. And what kind of fascinates me from a study of human nature and human behavior is that there are groups of humans who, when you behave the way he does towards you, it kind of makes you submit. And that behavior, the flailing and the bluffing and the lying and the screaming and the orange face and the throwing and the cursing, some humans look at that and they go, "Oh my God, I don't want him to get angry. Yeah, he's angry at me. I don't want him to be okay. Well, what, he's angry at you? Okay. Oh my God." But then by showing weakness, you then actually allow someone like him to then accumulate the tools of power to then actually utilize things against you. And it becomes kind of a self-fulfilled fear based on the yelling that you're handing over your agency to someone like that who's just yelling and screaming at you when the normal reaction is kind of what you saw with Kristen Welker or other humans who, okay, dude, what are you doing? Shut the F up. Okay, you realize how pathetic you look, dude, get the hell, or just walk away. Just, okay, if that's how you're behaving, I don't want to roll. You're not my friend. I don't want to roll with you. I'm not following you. You're a crazy person. Like, get the hell away from me. But there's some people, and it's a large group, and it's the MAGA Republicans. There's a group of people still, no matter how bad Trump is, no matter how bad, they'll be that 25 to 35%. They are magnets to the abuse and to the toxicity and to the screaming and to the threats and to the death cycle and to the chaos. And then there are people who are like, no. But the thing is that behavior then has the ability to pollute everything. So then people generally see it and they're like, oh, whoa. Like, everybody's crazy and everybody's horrible. I don't want anything to do with any of this. And what he wants to also do is make voting so toxic and so questioned, and he wants everything to be polluted by his hatred, that people are just like, you know what? I don't want to even confront this, because when you roll around with pigs, you get dirty. I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want it to rub off on me. And I think, unfortunately, the public took for granted that all these institutions would just hold up and do the work for them. I don't have to worry about it because they're going to do it. They're going to do it, and they're going to do it. And now we're seeing that that's not the case. You got to do it. You've got to stand up for yourself. Because if you don't stand up for yourself and you don't stand up for others who are being treated poorly, and they're coming for you, and then they're coming for your family, and they're coming for them. So you have no choice in the matter, just thinking logically. Now, I want to take our last quick break of the show. When we come back, I want to highlight a few other things from that interview. And then I want to talk about not just the game, which is taking place right now. I want to talk about FIFA and how Donald Trump is imposing more ICE and Border Patrol restrictions and escalating there, which is having, I think, a real catastrophic impact already on FIFA. Talk about the UFC fight lawsuit and a few other things. A reminder, subscribe to our audio. Double check wherever you listen to audio podcasts, or even if you don't listen to audio podcasts, just go on whatever podcast device you have and then subscribe to the MeidasTouch on the audio podcast. It helps us a lot. So even if you don't think you're going to do it, just do it anyway. It helps a lot. And we appreciate you for doing it. All right, let's take our last quick break of the show.
Want to look and feel your best this summer? Don't just think skin deep, think cell deep. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet kickstarts your body's natural ability to renew and rejuvenate from within. Backed by decades of scientific research, Prolon is clinically shown to stimulate autophagy, the body's own process of cellular cleanup, to help you reset your metabolism, lose fat, and protect lean muscle mass. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish your body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering cellular rejuvenation and renewal. Everything is pre-packaged and ready to go, with 5 boxes labeled by day, so there's no prep and no guesswork. No matter the season, when I'm craving a real reset, Prolon is the only nutrition program that works for me. It's convenient, backed by Nobel-winning science, and it works. Ready for your own reset? For a limited time, Prolon is offering MeidasTouch listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/Meidas. That's prolonlife.com/Meidas, MEIDAS, to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/Meidas. Are you tired of waking up hungover and worrying about what happened last night? That's why I've been reaching for Willie's Remedy Plus, the THC-infused social tonic that lets you have fun and actually feel good the next day. If you're trying to be more intentional this year, Willie's gives you that social, uplifting buzz without wrecking your goals. For me, it's perfect for unwinding after a long day, socializing without alcohol, or even getting a little creative. It kicks in fast, feels smooth and euphoric, and there's no hangover waiting for you in the morning. Willie's is a premium THC-infused social tonic crafted by the legendary Willie Nelson, inspired by Willie's way of living where peace flows freely and hangovers are a thing of the past. It is a low-calorie, low-sugar, alcohol alternative that actually works, delivering a fast-acting, euphoric social buzz without the regrets that come with alcohol. Willie's isn't that feared edible you ate too much of in college. Each bottle is third-party lab-tested for accurate dosage with a unique blend of THC, CBD, CBG, and L-theanine that delivers calm, clarity, euphoria, and relaxation. Willie's social tonics come in 5 milligrams and 10 milligram doses with a best-in-class flavor experience, so smooth and balanced you barely realize you're drinking a THC product at all. You can enjoy the tonics as a shot, sipped over ice, or mixed into your favorite mocktail. One shot of Willie's helps you relax, unwind, and distress. Perfect for taking the edge off after a long day or socializing with friends. Willie's offers the kind of feeling that makes good company even better. Willie's sold out 3 times in the first 6 months with over 50,000 happy customers, and they just restocked. Willie's ships directly to your doorstep in 40 plus states. Order now at drinkwillies.com and use code Meidas for 20% off your first order, plus free shipping on orders over $95, and enjoy life in the high country. That's drinkwillies.com, code Meidas, MEIDAS.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in the description, both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Really quick, funny story. So I deal with a lot of like interesting folks when I, contract the ad reads and stuff like that. So my Willie's contact, when we were inking this deal, he's like, Willie watches the show. I'm like, no way. He's like, no, he watches every episode. I said, done. Let's bring him on. Let's bring him on. So shout out Willie's, man. Definitely check them out. Links in description. Show them some love. Meidas Mighty. We love it. Benji.
That's Willie Nelson Jordy's talking about. Just FYI.
So that's what my contact says. It says never misses. He said Jordy never misses an episode. So
wow.
Benji.
Okay, when you think about all of the things that Donald Trump promised, that all of those promises have been broken. One of the main ones was no new wars, right? He said that over and over again. He said that he was going to end Russia's war against Ukraine on day one. He was going to bring down prices on day one. Electricity prices would be cut in half. Manufacturing jobs would be booming here. Inflation would be cut significantly. The tariffs against the world were going to make everybody rich. There would be Doge dividend checks given to everybody, and no new wars. That was something. No new wars. That's what he said in the campaign over and over, and all of those other things. So when Kristen Welker was asking him questions about that, he goes, I never said that. I never promised no. And I never said that. And I don't know, like, is this thing also like a hypnotic thing when you do that, like in circles and you just keep doing it over?
Ben's moving his hands in the Trump style for those listening.
He's just trying to keep his balance. Like,
accordion move.
Ordinary people like stand on like a balance beam.
That, when people watch you say that and you do that, does it like go, he must not have said that? I'm like, and that works on like a subset of people. You just keep doing that. I'm actually being serious. Like, I haven't studied, is there?
Well, it's like Star Wars, Ben. You're a big Star Wars guy. That's what they used to do, right? They would like put you will let me pass. And they're like, okay.
I never, look. I never said it. I mean, just so you saw, here's what he says to Kristen Welker. Let's play it.
So when you say I promised, I didn't promise anything. I don't like these endless wars. This is not an endless war. We've been doing this for 3 months. Much of it has been under the form, a pretty good form of ceasefire. The blockade has been amazing. Our Navy is amazing. Our military is the best in the world. Hey, we took over a very powerful country, Venezuela, a lot of soldiers, big, strong military. We took over Venezuela in a matter of minutes. We destroyed the capability of Iran in a matter of days. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Now I'm going to finish it. But remember, you were in.
Okay, so we have the clips of him saying, I mean, there's so many things about that too. His pivot to Venezuela. Just think about an American president bragging about just taking over a country. We took over them. Now, that's not what America's about. Biden could have taken over Venezuela. Okay. You know why? Why the, like, let's just say okay, Donald, you took it over. Got it. You gave the power to an extension of the authoritarian regime. Okay. Delcy. And you've also now sent a message to the rest of the world that this is just how the thing's done. If America is taking over Venezuela in minutes, China says, okay, it's fair game. Why can't we take over Taiwan? Russia says, great, we're going. This validates us. In our view, you're taking over them. We take over. America's message is that we don't do that. We develop strong international alliances. We put pressure on authoritarian regimes to try to change behavior, but only unless there's a real imminent threat do we engage in like regime change, because we've seen how bad anytime it's tried, it's not worked out well. Brett's showing the video right here of just this, again, deranged behavior. And just think about that behavior, though, when you're thinking about this is the guy in the Situation Room. Don't think about a Democrat, Republican, Independent. Just think about like this is the guy. I mean, and just think about like meetings that you may have with people, you know, in your life. Like if you I don't know, like you show up at a fast food joint and, you know, you're ordering whatever. And the person behind the register is like, like who behaves like, I'm just trying to fathom who behaves like. Anyway, I digress. Let's just show him saying what he said in the campaign over and over again. Let's just play it.
Said, oh, he's going to start a war because they said I had that personality to start a war. They remember that? Oh, we can't vote for him. He's going to start a war. No, I used my personality that we didn't have to have wars. I was the first president in decades who started no new wars. Who started no new wars and no new wars. No new wars. We don't need the wars. Foreign lands, countries you've never heard of, countries that don't even want us there. I was the first president in decades who started no new wars. I was the first president in decades who started no new wars. We will expel the war.
All right, that goes on for 5 minutes. You get the point, right? I mean, he says it like every day on the campaign. That was like one of his go-to lines. And now he brags about starting wars. He's a warmonger of the highest degree, probably no bigger warmonger in the history of United States than this guy. He's got like a lust for it. It's very weird. And again, more lies. And we need that's why you got to hold the guy accountable for these things and not just mention the lies, but again, its impact on the country, how bad our economy is doing right now for most Americans who are suffering, how horrible it is here, how inflation is surging and how he's making it worse. And again, I say this as someone who truly despises everything he's done to this country, everything he stands for, and all of the harm that he's caused. But it's like, I'm just like, come on, man, just do a deal. Just figure this out. Come on, like, can I help? Like, just please figure this out. Like this is hurting so many Americans, and this is so embarrassing to all of us. Just figure this out, grow up, do a deal, get it done. Just get it done. Grow the hell up. It's just every damn day that passes and we hear the stuff, I don't know how you feel watching or listening. It's like, I feel like it just feels actually humiliating that this is what our country is. And it's humiliating still when he goes around, and granted, he's speaking in front of very tiny crowds now, but it's just like, if people clap for this, I'm like, come on, man, you're into this? Seriously, you're into this? What are you doing? Like, I'm sure he screwed you. Like, do you not realize that he's actually screwed your life and that he hates you? Like, you don't get it? We're just going to keep doing what we do every day here, though. Keep grinding, keep getting the truth out. And as I said at the outset of this, again, everything this guy touches dies. Everything that he does, from tonight's Knicks game, where they've shut down the 5 blocks and 2 avenues around Madison Square Garden. It looks like a fortress around there. It went from the most joyous scenes of raw emotion New Yorkers who have been waiting for this moment for decades and decades to now it looks like, one of Donald Trump's quarantine zones or war zones is what it basically looks like. When we talk about FIFA, you're escalating ICE and Border Patrol operations. Marco Rubio announced more visa restrictions right now than ever. I mean, they're doing like retaliatory things against like the Iranian football team. Now, whatever you think about the Iranian regime, whatever you think about this war, there's a tradition in sports where you don't retaliate against the sports team. And so the U.S. didn't approve visas for Iran's like coaching staff, or a bunch of their major coaching staff and their managers didn't get visas. The team got visas, and like I think their main manager did, but like a lot of the assistants, they did not. They got their visas denied. And it's like, why? What are you trying to prove by that? By doing that? You're the host of the World Cup. Act like the host. But it's not just Iran. I mean, there are stories of all of these Middle East nations and African nations where the visa rejection rate is, in some nations, over 8. On average, visa rejection rates overseas are like 40%. So almost half the people from most countries that are attending this get their visas rejected. They can't watch their teams. And then in some countries that just basically appear to be like, are you in Africa or are you in the Middle East is kind of what it comes down to. And are you certain disfavored South American or Caribbean countries, your rejection rate is in the 60s to the 80%. I mean, we're seeing like, Donald Trump hates Somalia. And Donald Trump attacks Somalia over and over and over again and says the most raceful and hateful things about Somalian people. Somalians are frauds, he says. They've destroyed Minneapolis and Minnesota, and that's why. And he does the whole Somalian thing. So he carries that racism and hatred into not allowing a Somali referee, Omar Artan, who's one of the top referees in football or soccer. They prevent him from getting his visa. They reject his visa because he's Somalian. And I think about this and I just think of already, you've poisoned the World Cup. You've poisoned this experience. Also, you have Rudy Giuliani's kid, Andrew, is running it. And there's just going back to the beginning about just the raw incompetence. So the World Cup is in Canada, the United States, and Mexico. So I showed you the stats of not approving visas. But when visas are approved, sometimes it's a one-time travel visa into the United States. So if you're following a team that has a game in Canada or Mexico, lots of people are finding that their visas only allow from country of origin to the United States, but don't allow United States to Canada, and then Canada back to the United States, or Mexico back to the United States. So lots of people are like, well, what do we do if you didn't approve the multi-country visa? And given that we knew that this was going to be an issue for a long time, and when Trump took office 2 years ago, I can't wait till I say 3 years ago and 4 years ago, we're going to get there, folks, together. Wouldn't that be one of the first things that you do if you're Andrew Giuliani and you're running FIFA in the United States and you're the World Cup czar? Wouldn't you want to figure that out? No, they don't want to figure that out. This UFC fight in front of the White House, there's a emergency hearing there that's going to be taking place on Thursday before a federal judge. There's some good arguments that are being made by the plaintiffs to try to block this thing from going down. And basically the argument is, so what is this thing? Because it appears to just be a promotional event where you have to watch. If you were going to watch it on TV, you have to have a Paramount Plus subscription. So it's not open to the public. It's on public property, but it's not open to the public. And so this deal seems to be collusive and inappropriate. Donald Trump has invested in TKO, the parent company of UFC, and UFC is selling tickets, apparently $1.4 million to be in the kind of front row to right-wing oligarchs. So the military is going, but then the right-wing oligarchs, I guess, are paying for the recoupment of the cost, basically the outlay for UFC when you add up the $1.4 million. So does that constitute, this is a legal question, an improper quid pro quo or bribe? And Trump's claiming that when I had the authority to plan America 250 events, this falls within that umbrella. Well, this isn't an America 250 event. It's not even a Freedom 250 event, which is Trump's propaganda arm organization, not the nonpartisan one. You were never delegated any power to do this event. You just said, let's do it. And now you're also saying you want this gigantic claw, which makes the White House look like a junkyard, to be there forever. And so the lawsuit also says that's inappropriate as well. If you were going to make some sort of permanent whatever, you've got to, again, go to Congress for all of that. That's the thing our country is. We have multiple branches. You have the House and the Senate. You have two chambers. That's Congress. You have the president who faithfully executes. Congress passes the law. The president faithfully executes. And then the courts are supposed to be the referees in this process. And Donald Trump wants to go around all of that. And, look, that's why when you see with this Kennedy Center lawsuit that Trump had to take his name off the Kennedy Center, that's going to be used as precedent, I think, also in the UFC fight to say, see, that was improper. So if it's improper to do that, this should be improper also. And you have to block it from taking place because Trump, the argument is we can destroy the Statue of Liberty. And once we destroy the Statue of Liberty, you can't put it back together. That's the argument with the East Wing. So we don't have a remedy after the fact. We only have a remedy before. We, the people bringing this lawsuit, we just uncovered the designs for this now because Trump's now given information about what this really is going to be. And now that we know about the $1.4 million tickets for the oligarchs and the Paramount Plus covering this, and this is not what our system is. So let's see, and what Trump's going to argue, there's no standing to sue. There's no standing. And our laws didn't fully grasp that you would have somebody in the White House that would not faithfully execute Congress. You're faithfully executing the laws, the take care clause, to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. That's the ultimate implied covenant of good faith built into the Constitution, which constantly gets violated by Trump all of the time.
Well, I think Trump gave it in the ballroom lawsuit, just to interrupt for a second, when his lawyers in court the other day are arguing for the ballroom and why essentially the courts or Congress cannot do anything about the ballroom. The Trump lawyers essentially said, if we act quick enough and if we tear something down quick enough, you can't do anything about it. And the judge was like, so if you wanted to bulldoze the Statue of Liberty and you did it fast enough, you're saying that we can't then punish you or do anything to stop it or anything after the fact? And Trump's lawyer said, yeah, that's exactly what we're saying. We could bulldoze the Statue of Liberty if we wanted to. I mean, what a metaphor for the way Donald Trump treats the United States of America, first of all. But secondly, I mean, that shows you their mindset right there, right? It's that kind of move fast and break stuff mindset. Donald Trump has brought that into the United States government, and that's what he's doing. They're trying to just constantly break this, break that, break this agency, remove that, destroy this building, destroy the East Wing, destroy this monument, whatever it is. Their plan is just do it quick enough because they know that our system is a slow system by nature. And so they basically want to get to the point of no return and then say, oh, it's too late now. I mean, what are we supposed to do? We already bulldozed the East Wing. What's supposed to be demolished a construction site for the next few years? Okay. I mean, I don't think so. That's kind of the devious part about what they're doing. And it's what they're doing, kind of all over the world. They just break shit. And then they, hope that because they broke it, that gives them the full right to then just do whatever they want with whatever it is. That's just not how things are supposed to work in the United States of America.
Yeah. And that's how Donald Trump behaved before the presidency, right? That this whole idea of frameworks of deals, frameworks to negotiate. Why? because he's never intending to faithfully execute on his terms. He views the negotiation as a way to lure people into implied covenants of good faith and fair dealing, of good faith, and then he sucker punches you when you're in a good faith. That's why he doesn't want anything reduced to writing. And then when it is reduced to writing, he then wants it to be as ambiguous as possible so that he can violate it and he can't be bound by the terms. And then when he is bound by the terms, he just wants to create such a mess for everybody that you're just like, oh, all right, just let him get away with it. And we can't. And, you know, as I mentioned at the outset, I'll just give a few other data points as well. Ruining a D-Day commemoration. How do you ruin a D-Day commemoration? You know, you send Pete Hegseth to Normandy, and then he goes out there and he says, you know, there was once a time where we were invading and we were storming the beaches of Normandy together in order to stop the Nazis. Now, a different type of storming the beach happens, an invasion of the beaches that the European countries, the globalists, are letting take place. It's like, this is how you're using your Normandy speech while you're in France, while you're on this hollow ground. And, you know, the people of Normandy and the local press, they're like, this guy's persona non grata. He's dead to us. We don't want him here. Get him out. He should not be here ever again. They were horrified by what he said in Normandy, which, again, just be normal, man. Just go there, respect the veterans, respect those who died fighting for freedom and democracy, acknowledge the allies' the sacrifices, and get out. That's it. That's it. None of these people act normal. And because they're not normal, they're hateful, spiteful, dangerous people, and they all are attracted to each other like gnats are attracted to fluorescent light or mosquitoes are. And that's what you see over and over again. So you've got that taking place. And then we're on what, day 9, or if you're listening to this on Tuesday, day 10 of the Albanian protests against Jared Kushner and Ivanka for taking over a protected Albanian island and using Kushner's equity fund to try to do this 10,000 room oligarch, weird tunnel filled resort that's, you know, could certainly harm the wildlife there. And they're calling it the Flamingo Revolution against Kushner and Ivanka. And people in Albania are livid. And also now Albania's desire to ascend to the European Union is running into some roadblocks because the European Union is saying now, well, you've waived your own ecological and environmental requirements to allow Kushner and Ivanka to do this. And that goes against some of the chapters of the European Union's environmental protection. So we want to know what's going on there. Also, we have anti-corruption provisions, and we're aware within Albania, there's a group called SPAC, and they are launching a criminal investigation into this enterprise that did this JV, I suppose, with Kushner into their involvement in breaking down some of the important laws and preservation requirements. And so that's being looked to as well. And then you have Edi Rama, who's their prime minister there, who's out there, again, like playing the victim. And he's like, no, this is not actually Kushner. It's his company. And actually, there's a multi-level war that's being fought against us and propaganda and people that hate the Trumps. No. You are allowing Kushner and Ivanka, and they're out there talking about it on podcasts, to go in and take over this island and create some haven for all of their investors. That's what has been described, that their right-wing oligarchs will take over this island, and Kushner and Ivanka are acting like they discovered this island, like they identified it. So that's a microcosm of what's happening around the world as well. Ivanka, the Sazan Island will not be your daddy's next Epstein Island, or some of the signs that we see right there. So We'll keep covering this. We'll keep getting out the truth. A reminder, please subscribe to the MeidasTouch audio. Just want to really let you know, because sometimes I'm asked, how can we help? It's a free way to help. And it really helps the show. Like, I can't even stress enough that the audio growth and the continued audio growth is a critical pillar of MeidasTouch network growth. And so if you want to know, what can you do? It's free, it's quick, and it helps us immensely. So when the show ends, just search MeidasTouch on audio and subscribe there. And so we will be doing breaking news throughout the evening into the morning, of course. We're grateful for you. We appreciate you. Brett, anything else you want to say?
Nope, that's it from me. Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty. Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.